Hello and welcome to the Menopause Mindshift Self-Love Podcast. I am your host, Lisa R. Triggs, best-selling author, self-love advocate, menopause queen. Today, I am joined by a very, very lovely lady, Chrissy Cordingley, who has a beautiful story to tell us about what happened to her during COVID. And she's going to tell us about her book and what's going on, what's new. And I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Welcome, Christy. It's so nice to see you again.
Thank you for having me. This is really exciting. I don't usually get to sit on this side. I've always been on the other side.
It's weird when the tables are turned, right? So now I'm on this side. So last time we saw each other, we talked about me and my book and, my story, and my self-love journey. And now I so want to hear about yours. I know that something happened to you during COVID that changed your life drastically. And so please, first tell me a little bit about you prior to that, and then let us know what happened.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I mean, you're such an inspiration. You're so genuine, authentic, and just your vulnerability and sharing your story and now highlighting others is really admirable. So I'm Chrissy. I call myself the Wholeness Coach. My company is called Rise and Thrive, and I'm based out of Canada, but I do coach anywhere in the world pretty much. I developed the term Wholeness Coach for myself after going through quite a bit of different traumatic experiences and really believing I had to carve away at myself and chip away and be hard on myself, which a lot of messages out there and even healers and that really talk about. Just don't do that. Just focus on this. But really, the human experience is about who we all are. All the things in us, the shadows and the lights, they're all very important and they're all beautiful. So it really came to a place where I had to just embrace who I actually was rather than the person I thought I should have been by this point in my life. And that really made a big difference in healing. So that's what I do. I help people learn how to love them whole selves and to embrace their shadows and work with them and feel their feelings and really understand what they want for themselves, what healing looks like for them.
If you don't mind, what happened during COVID that sent life on a spiral?
Yeah, well, the spiral started a bit before COVID. I sort of had a traditional life, was a traditional wife and mom. I was an occupational health and safety specialist. And then when my kids were young, I went into multi-level marketing, drove a pink car for a couple of years. Any of that journey, even though I'm not involved with that anymore per se, like only as a customer, really. So one thing I don't regret that actually triggered a lot of like good curiosity, like I have this normal traditional life. Am I actually happy, or is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And I remember someone said, one of my national was NJ Stoker, and she had said, like, these types of businesses are good in a way because if you have a good marriage, they tend to strengthen them because you communicate so well and you connect. But if you have maybe a good foundation to some of your relationships, you'll start to see them because the growth can't sustain it. In sort of this normal life, my body started crumbling and I just felt really old for my age in my 30s and just I wasn't moving anymore. I gained a lot of weight. I couldn't lose it. I wasn't sleeping. I was losing hair. So I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, had several surgeries on my abdomen. There was a lot of issues anyways, and ended up divorcing my husband at the time and becoming a single mom and starting my life new. That's sort of where it started. And I thought, okay, this is it. This was the hard thing. And then it just sort of got incrementally harder. So I left my business because I just didn't have the drive to, I wasn't in a place where I could motivate people because I was in such a dark, kind of shameful place. And so I left my business, went back to the corporate world, and then sort of wondering, why am I back here again? I didn't want to be here. So it was wrestling. And in 2022, at the beginning, I did have a decent job that I enjoyed, but I was still really battling inside. And I had gone back to school part-time for coaching integrative nutrition. So that's where the wholeness piece came from. Was more about holistic, non-food nourishment than it was about the food that we put into our bodies. At the time, another company had headhunted me or we got in touch and they had offered me, this really glorious position. And I was like, well, there seems to be a lot of flexibility with this. There's even opportunities to pursue more education. So maybe I will leave my sort of stable piece as I'm building my side business and take a chance. And what happened from there, this is where we get to 2022, where COVID happened for me, was I was subject to a lot of harassment and vitriol, and it was a very unhealthy environment. That part's not super important, but going into nervous breakdown, the house that I was in a position where I had to leave it and find a new residence, which I did very quickly, thankfully, but it was a lot more expensive. But I thought I had this job. And then the harassment became so bad that I ended up having to quit. They didn't even fire me. I ended up leaving because I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. And my doctor had said there's ways that you can still get EI even if you quit. I really took a leap. I had a little bit of savings. I had some EI and I'm like, I'm totally going to land and I'm going to build this business. I took a writing course because I was going to write my book. I had started doing some interviews for some sort of part-time contract work and training and motivational speaking, that kind of thing, which was sort of starting to come. And in September, so 2 months after I left, I still hadn't secured anything, but I was finally starting to sit for interviews and have conversations. Summer's a bad time to look for work. The restrictions were really loose, so we were going out. I was like visiting with friends again, and I got COVID. And I still have this Hashimoto's, and I have, a central nervous system that is fried from stress to begin with. And I hadn't had COVID yet in 2022, so I'd managed to avoid it. And at that point, I thought, what's the big deal? It's like a bad cold. It'll be okay. I had my vaccinations and everything. But so I got COVID. And at first it was just like a really bad flu, like just no energy. My kid got it too. So we were at home just watching movies and just trying to like stay comfortable. They started to feel better about day 4, but I developed a headache that wouldn't go away. And I'm prone to migraines. I'm like, okay, it's just a migraine, but the migraine medication wasn't working. Like there was no relief. Like I was still really lethargic. So a friend picked me up, took me to urgent care. They brought me in, gave me some IV medication. Like, this is kind of common with COVID. It should subside. People, especially prone to headaches, you might have a couple days. Just try to stay as comfortable as possible. We'll give you some more different medication that you can try. Sent me home and I actually was comfortable. I'm like, okay, maybe the headache's gone. I went to bed and I woke up and I was like, I almost started to scream. My head felt like it was cracking in two. I laid in the bath, and as I was laying there, my arms started to feel kind of weak on both sides. So I got out and, I went back to my room and I just felt really like dizzy. I'm like, this is a bad headache. I took their medication. Nothing helped. I called my doctor. They're like, yeah, it's kind of common with some people, especially with your pre-existing. Just try to sleep. So I tried and I couldn't get comfortable. My arms felt strange and my hands were getting sort of tingly and weird and tremory. And all of a sudden my eyes were like this. And it was like, just got to get through this. I just got to lay down, take the meds, follow the orders and try to sleep. It was about 3 days later of not sleeping and sort of pacing and starting to get more confused when I stood beside my bed. I remember this and I'm like, And I called my kid. And they came into the room. They're like, what? I'm like, can you show me how to get into bed? I don't remember how. What are you talking about? I'm like, what do I do with my arms? I don't know. And they're like twitching. And they're like, you're not okay. And I'm like, I don't feel very good. And then I started like sweating and I was still shaking. I wasn't seizuring or anything. I was still coherent. I can remember it, but also feeling like I didn't know a lot of things. It was really strange. We did call the ambulance because I was starting to get weaker and I couldn't really, I had to keep moving, but I didn't have a lot of strength. And so we called the ambulance. They came in. They're like, your heart is fine. Doesn't look like it's a stroke. Some people with COVID, especially with pre-existing conditions, do get the headaches and some get tremors and shakes. It will go away on its own. Just relax. We can take you in, but you'll just be sitting in a hallway for days. And I was like crying. I was hysterical. And I'm always like this, like I'm calm. I was hysterical. I was crying. I was like, please don't leave me like this. Like I was screaming. I remember just like, I was on the floor on like my hands and knees because I couldn't sit because it would hurt my, there was no way to sit up. I had no way to balance. So I was on the floor on hands and knees for a while. And then the doctor called because the ambulance sent a report, and then they notified the doctor. My doctor called, and I tried to pick up the phone and I couldn't even hold my phone. And so the doctor was like, "Is that you crying? Or what is going on?" And so my kid picked up the phone and said, "This is what's happening." I'm like, "When was the last time you slept?" We're like, 4 days ago, maybe. Like, we're trying half an hour at a time, maybe, right? And they're like, "Something's really wrong. So can someone bring you medication if I write your prescription?" And so we called my mom. My mom was like, "Yes, we'll figure it out." She sent a prescription and she said, just know this is a very low dose just to see if we're on the right track. I'm not going to prescribe you more of this because this is a strong medication and I need to see you to give you the full dose. And I'm not Michael Jackson's doctor, so we're going to do this carefully.
What I can't believe is that, because usually the Canadian healthcare system is, we have to wait a little bit to go see a specialist type of thing. But I thought we were typically, more cautious at that. But not that it's an excuse either. COVID was a learning experience for everybody. On the one hand, I could see how they kept saying, but on the other hand, I'm sitting here going, there's no way. When they offered the hospital, I would have said, yeah, take me and I'll take my chances. It's a hard call because they're supposed to be the professionals.
They don't know what to do with that kind of stuff. They're not trained in.
Yeah.
Technically, what it was afterwards, we found out was serotonin syndrome. So that's usually caused by medication, like an overtaking and misuse of medication, where your serotonin in your brain completely crashes and spikes. Oh. And it's fatal. It's fatal if left untreated. I would, if I hadn't seen the doctor or gotten medication to normalize my brain function again, I would have died.
The medication that your doctor did prescribe you started working then?
Yeah, so my mom brought the medication. Well, it got me to sleep, but my brain was injured at that point.
Oh,
which we didn't realize at first. So it was almost like I was on fire from the brain down. Like it was like, and I was like twitching. My mom got there. She just
surprised she didn't put you with a car and drive you herself.
No. We trust our doctor. Thank goodness. Like we have a really good relationship with my family doctor. So, and because of sort of the complicated stress related and autoimmune stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that stuff isn't actually taken into account in emergency because they don't know, they're not taught how to like holistically look at a person's experience through different things. So they brought the medication and I managed to get a little bit of sleep. So that helped clear some of the confusion, but the physical symptoms were there. So I was still really weak. I was still tremoring. It looked like I had late stage Parkinson's disease and my speech was getting slurry. Nothing was sagging. It was just like, and I had no use of my arms. Like I couldn't pick up my phone. So my mom had to let people know, like, if she's not texting you back, she can. So after about 4 days, I was finally strong enough to walk to the car. And that was the worst car ride of my life. Like it was awful. And to get to the doctor. And that's when she put me on like the full, and I probably slept for about a month.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like off and on.
So at no point did you go to the hospital?
Nope.
Oh, wow.
No, because the ambulance said there's no point. And also with what I had experienced in past with, there's a whole story about that, with ovaries and the autoimmune. I had a lot of like, they're not going to do anything for me there. It's not like, they don't know what it is even. They don't even understand. In COVID right now, they're testing for pneumonia and, lung issues. They're not looking for brain and the nervous system issues. But it was hard. Like I would wake up and I wouldn't know where I was.
Yeah.
And I would, how when you're dreaming and then you wake up, like dreams usually come just before we wake up. That's just part of the sleep cycle. So I would dream and then all of a sudden I'd be like, "Whoa!" And I would be like flinging myself out of bed. I would be like, "Where am I?" It still happens every once in a while if I don't get enough sleep. I was a little tired this weekend, and I woke up and I was like smacking butterflies in the eye. So the brain still has stuff not quite right. My memory isn't so fabulous, but it's getting better. There's not a lot to remember from that point, from that medication, probably for about 6 months. If people ask me about things, I don't remember.
For the next 6 months after this?
Yeah, there's not much there that I can recall very well. So healing looked like, so also with a brain injury. So when the brain is healing, when the brain's been injured, whether through chemical, which was mine, or physical injury, which can cause chemical reactions in the brain through the healing process, one of the things that happens is it does flood the system with more cortisol and adrenaline and epinephrine, and you end up in severe, like crippling, disabling anxiety. So for about 6 months after that, as I started to get movement in my arms back, that took about a month. I didn't need therapy. It was really just every day, just moving a little more and getting a little more motion, doing stretching, that kind of thing as I could get comfortable. The anxiety, like it would be so weird. Like now I laugh, but at the time it was so scary. My mom was there. My mom said something when my grandfather had passed away a decade earlier. And I'm like, Grandpa's dead. We're all going to die. And then I was like hysterical again. I'm like, I had kids and they're going to die about these kids. And it was absolutely, and I was like that. So people had to, like, I had to be very careful who I spoke to. I had worked with previously, a really good friend of mine was so kind that they offered me a very simple job, but at a good rate of pay on a part-time basis, so I could dictate the hours, so I could start getting back into the world outside of my house that I was terrified of. And that was amazing. Like, it was such a gift. I was saying even to my husband yesterday that something small happened and I started to, like, I could feel like the spiral, like the anxiety. And I was like, and I'm like, it's still crazy to me how sometimes even the little things can still, every once in a while, just like knock that little piece of the brain that still remembers all the catastrophizing, all that panic, all that worry, you know, all those hormones or whatever was going on inside the brain. It's so unusual. So it also increased my ADHD symptoms, which I had, and with menopause, which, you know, also creates brain fog.
Once I, found out how many symptoms there were with menopause, even the rage, the anger and things like that. I used to think that that was just because of what was going on around me in the situation. But then once I learned that that was, part of it, I was like, is it menopause or is it is it my life or is it both? It was probably both. That would make sense. Because what was going on, made me angry and then sad and depressed and the whole bit, right? How did all that, and I mean, because that must take a lot to come back, right? How did that affect how you felt about yourself, during that period? And secondly, you're saying you have a husband now, so you found new love along the way there. So you have to tell me a little bit about,
Yeah, it was really hard. So after my divorce, there was a lot of financial issues, of course. I had finally dug myself out, and then this happens, and I'm basically unemployable for months on end, and my EI has run out. My savings are now gone. I wasn't able to just get another job like I thought I would when I quit that job. Like, if I had just stayed there, stuck it out for another 2 months, I would have had like disability. Like, it would have been but it just worked out that way, right? So
yeah.
The shame from that, the shame of like realizing I don't have a will, like what's going to happen to my kids if something happens to me, just so much of like these near death things that happened. And then also being misunderstood and having so much public opinion, like, well, it's because you got the vaccine. Maybe you got the wrong vaccine, or maybe you did this, or, maybe you took care of yourself better, or like all these things. And then my brain's not working and
you literally had to retrain your brain, right?
and now, so even now, like with like even keeping appointments, there's still probably one appointment a week where I'm like, sorry, I didn't make that because I totally forgot about it, even though it was on my calendar. So there's things I have to unwire in my head as to like, no, these are just occurrences. You're not failing at life. You are just a human being with some extra needs. So you need to be a little bit kinder to yourself, a little bit gentler to yourself. Just before I met my husband, that was sort of where I was in now. I was sort of like, you have been hard on yourself for a long time now. Like, that is clearly not working. Working with self-love and actual practices of self-love and figuring out what that looked like. And then going back to the wholeness piece about, hey, these are just parts of me. They're pieces that I don't need to get rid of. I don't need to get rid of the forgetfulness. It just is. I have to accept and love where I'm at right now and work with that, because if I keep telling myself it's not enough, I'm just going to keep feeling like I'm not enough. I have a wonderful coach that works with like soul fractures. So you go back and you really look at these things that happen that really fractured the vision you have of yourself, like where you've left pieces of your soul or like tucked them away. So burning what's been
amazing. That number. I'll have to get that.
That's amazing. So these little fractures, so these big events, these traumatic events that happen, they can create little fractures in ourselves. So they really fracture the ego with ourselves. And anyways, I won't get too deep into that. But when we pinpointed some of like the source of some of these fractures and why some of these events triggered additional like fissures in an existing fracture, because it's like salt in the wounds as we sort of repeat patterns or have things that brush us up against our trauma. When we found that and I was able to work through embodying it and healing it within myself, I don't have migraines anymore. I mean, I may not remember everything, but I hiked up a mountain last year. Like, I can do so much more. The brain is in a better place. Even that little self-awareness yesterday, having that little challenge and recognizing the spiral before allowing it to go to the spiral.
It's a big thing to recognize it, the awareness, what it is. I just want to touch on the memory lot for a minute because, well, mine, forgetful. I live by, I'm going to spell it. I won't say it because it'll come on SIRI. Remind me to do this at that. I mean, there's 20 or 30 of them in there, or idea I get, just put it in there. Reminders. I live by reminders. I went to the doctor, because I was very concerned about, I thought, oh my God, am I getting onset dementia or something like that? I didn't know that it was a menopause symptom. The lack of focus and all that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm ADD all of a sudden, and it's better now, but I like you, I have to be aware of it and focus and actually say, I'm going to be focused today. Otherwise it's squirrel, but in my case, what scared me a little bit more was that my dad had brain cancer and my mom has also had 2 tumors. Luckily they removed, and my dad unfortunately, passed away, but my mom was okay. So, I was going up, so I've had an MRI and a CAT scan, just to make sure that there wasn't, but because, I was like, oh my God, what the heck is going on? And then to find out it is most likely associated with menopause and, the stress again, was a little bit of a relief to be able to say, okay, at least, now I can kind of maybe start, dealing with this a little bit more and that kind of thing. So
I think it's really significant what you do too. Because I even think about like my mom and my grandma, when they went through menopause, there weren't people like you out there sharing these things. Like, there's so much to community and these sharing of experiences, even if they're not all identical. Like, there's similarities, and it's like just to honor what's happening in our own evolution, right? So we're so grateful. We're so lucky to have people like you now bringing these things to awareness so that more people can feel comfortable with like, oh, I'm not broken,
going to the doctor and say, this could be or I might be in perimenopause. I mean, because, I was there for almost 10 years and did not know it, and now I know that that's what it was. But thank you so much. And I appreciate that so much because I feel what I'm doing is important. And I hope that it resonates with other women because I'm there with them. Right. And I'm not a doctor saying, well, here's the scientific, if you take, this medication, this is what it'll improve your life in this and this and this ways. It's like, well, this is my personal experience. And I did that. And here's how I've come out the other side and, that type of deal. Meeting your new husband now, what, if any, are any positives that might have come out of that situation, if any?
The opportunity to learn who I am, the opportunity to be reunited with myself. The only thing I had during that year from 2022 to about halfway through 2023 was, I had my children, of course, but really the only thing I had to offer myself was love. Like, I was at the bottom of what I had to offer myself. And it's so interesting that the last thing I had was also the most important thing I had. And so what I really just focused on is, what does my body need right now? What do I need right now? What does my brain need right now? When you talk about the ADHD and the focus, the mind wandering, when my mind wanders now, I don't go, oh, just focus. Sometimes I have to, but often it's like, okay, brain, you want to wander. Can we wander at 2:00 today? Where do you want to wander?
Yeah.
And we make time for it. And like, that's amazing to just be like,
that's a great way to look at it instead of, I mean, because we always tell ourselves, to bring it back. But sometimes, maybe, okay, you know what? Maybe I need to take a break from doing this. And maybe my brain is telling me I need to take a break from doing this, and I need to go, do that, fold the laundry, whatever, or whatever it is, go for a walk, eat some ice cream. Maybe sometimes we should listen to that more instead of trying to force it. Take that break and go wander, I love that. And that's just something new that I'm just realizing right now in this conversation. It's like, because I was doing the same thing, to bring it back. Because I have this, and this I need to do. I need to accomplish this, and this, and this today. Well, you know what? Maybe I do need to take a break and go do that, and let it.
And you get to decide, right? In every moment, it's not like there's always the right choice. There's just the choice that you need to make in that moment, right?
But it's one choice you make. It's right for you in that
Absolutely.
moment.
You're just learning things. There's no, even if you're like, oh, no, I'm going to make myself focus and it's just not working. And not, okay, well, whatever. Like, you're doing your best. Like, that's all that matters, right? You're just learning things about yourself. That's all. You're just sort of with yourself and exploring. And sometimes you get to decide whatever that looks like. There's no shoulds, woulds, or, well, they do that, I should do it that way. That's where we get messed up. That's the concept of going back. Well, will that actually work for me? And can two things be true? Can they be amazing in the things that they do and they do it that way? And can I be just as amazing sitting here daydreaming? Of course, right? Like, we're made this way for a reason. So
we don't give ourselves the opportunity to be unique and be who we are. We always want to conform into what society wants. Everybody's journey is slightly different. And that can be, in this, say, like my husband has celiac disease. Okay, there's over 200 symptoms of celiac disease, but each person's case is slightly different. Each person is going to have slightly different symptoms than others. Yes, there are 8 or 10 common ones, right, that you'll see, but other ones that, slide in. And so I think it's the same type of thing. And we don't allow ourselves to explore that. And I think that's part of what women need to do at this time of our lives, is to explore those things, because those are going to be things that are, are going to keep you going, are going to make you happy, and so on and so on. And that's showing space for yourself, showing love for yourself, and so on and so on. So, I think it's beautiful. Tell me quick, how did you meet your husband?
So it was in 2023, June. And I was feeling really good. I mean, as far as my business was launched now, and things are flowing a bit better. My kid is graduating from school. Like, just, there's a lot of good happening, and I'm feeling great. And I am really, like, I can tell even with my choices that I'm choosing more things that are truly what I want and good for me. Just the little things, even from what I put in my body to the energy that I allow around me, to spending time and making time for things. So it was really interesting. I was off the dating sites. I haven't been dating, obviously. I didn't even want to. I'm like, no, I need to be the love of my life right now. Like, this is what's happening.
Yes.
I've been looking everywhere for that love of my life. And I had made a promise to myself, I will never indulge a relationship where I feel like I am not 100% truly myself at any point in time. I need to be as comfortable with them beside me as I am when I'm just by myself chilling. If that is not a match, that is not a match. Like that's the bar now. But I still had, I guess, Facebook dating on my app. I didn't know it was turned on. And so this message came through randomly, and it was him, and his picture was like too nice looking. And so I was like, okay, catfish, how are you? And it was really just a joke. Like he didn't say much. He was like, oh, hello, good morning. And I was like, good morning. And then all of a sudden he's like, can we meet for coffee? You know, we've been chatting a while. I'm like, you even live in this city? Okay, sure. Let's meet here. I picked a place that I love in Winnipeg. It's called Yaffa Cafe. It's just a beautiful little spot, Palestinian place. And I went, and as I was pulling up, I picked it because I'm like, I'm going to enjoy a coffee by myself because this guy is not real. And as I was pulling up, he was walking in, and he looked just like his photo.
Oh my God.
And I was like, he's real. Like, okay. Well, he can't be like real. I pulled in, I walked in, he had this big smile, and he was like, it was almost like when a puppy sees you.
It turns out like he was from the same city as you, and like he lived not too far away and all that as well.
No, he's from Turkey. He lives in Winnipeg. He was actually living in Edmonton, but he was working in Winnipeg for the summer on a construction project. Yeah, so he wasn't from here at all. And and so we sit there and we're having coffee, and it was just so natural. Like it was just like we were laughing, talking about the same things, and I had an appointment, so I had to leave, and I was like, okay. And then he didn't message or anything for a while, and so I'm like, okay, that was just a cool little moment. I didn't expect anything, but he messaged later that night. He's like, I went for a walk, my phone died, but I really, really enjoyed today. Could we have coffee again or go for a walk sometime? So a couple days later, we went for a walk, and it was the same thing. It was just like this natural, like ease. Never really felt that, like other than friends, right? Like just like, are you the person? Could this be real? And about a week later, we went out to, he had a couple days off work, so we went to my little seasonal cottage, and we went hiking, and we did things that I've never really been able to do with a partner before. Like I've never really, so we did a bunch of hiking and swimming, and then he moved back to Edmonton, and I was like, okay, I guess, oh, this was nice. And we stayed in touch, and he was working in Moose Jaw for a little bit, so we ended up meeting there. I'm like, do we need to like just see if this is something worth like pursuing? And so we hadn't seen each other in a couple months, met in Moose Jaw, and it was exactly the same, just ease, like no time had passed, and it was just, we just understood each other. And I didn't really get that because we don't even speak the same languages. And he came back around Christmas, and then he stayed, and he's been here ever since. He proposed. So it was really interesting. Last fall, I got COVID again, and I was really, really scared. And I was starting to have some anxiety. Some of the symptoms happened. Nothing as bad, but still like the anxiety and the worry. And I'm like, I'm just scared. We're on day 5. This is when we'll know if it's going to go this way again. And I'm really, really scared. I was like getting really emotional thing about it. And he's like, it's going to be fine, love. It's going to be okay. And he came home, and he's like, and he brought me some tea and things. And I was like, you're the best family. He was like, yeah, we're family. I'm like, yeah, you feel like family. He's like, we are family. And then he gave me a ring, and that's how he proposed. I'm like, he's like, I just knew the right time would come, and you were feeling so scared, and I just wanted you to know you are not alone, and you never have to be alone again. We just had a really beautiful, my best friend married us at my parents' house, and we just had a nice like dinner with friends and family, and it was so much fun. Like it was actually like it felt like a real wedding. Like it was just a celebration, and it was really, really beautiful. So
tell me, when is the book out? Where can we find you? And
you can find me at my website, risethrive.ca, and I'm pretty active on Facebook, Instagram, all the places. I'm also active on LinkedIn because I do corporate workshops on psychological safety, which is about inclusion. So I call it the circle of safety. So we talk about how people do things differently or experience the world differently. I help organizations understand what parameters can people like things differently, and then make sure that people have the freedom to do those things with inclusivity and belonging. The book is called Baby on Board, not a pregnancy announcement. The baby is me. The baby is basically, it's funny because it came from Mary Kay, one of the nationals, Brenda Summick in Saskatchewan had said, so funny when we're just learning things, like how hard we are on ourselves. Like we don't even give ourselves a chance to do things poorly. She goes, could you imagine if you were like, if you had a baby and they were learning how to walk and they take a step and they fall down on their butts. Imagine if you're like, baby, you're making a fool of yourself. Just give up. Stay down. Stop trying. You're never going to walk. You are ridiculous. Stop getting up. What are you doing? You're just making a fool of yourself. And I thought that was so funny because as I sort of emerged again after 2022, learning in this new body, reconnected to my inner child, it was like, I'm wandering around the world like on these wobbly baby legs, making mistakes, but also really celebrating life. It's almost like I need a baby on board sign, like for people to be gentle around me, to be like, hey, you're going through some stuff, and rather than ridicule, begrudge you, push you, maybe we just need to exercise a little bit of caution around you. Realize you may be a little bit delicate, still strong.
I know the feeling. I came up with some great terms I wanted to use, about a month ago, and I said I have to figure out a way to work them, all into to make sense, kind of thing.
Totally. The book is being written. It will be out sometime next year. It's one of those things again that I've just had to make peace with as my brain, as the amount of writing and focus I can put into writing, and I really want to do it myself. So like I'm really like, no, this is mine to be birthed, and I'm going to do it. So it's slowly. I have a blog on Substack where I do write some of these articles that are going to go into the book, and they're just about wobbling along on learning legs through a bunch of different life things. So if someone wants to get a taste of what Baby on Board is and what Baby Legs is, that's the best place to go to really sort of read some of my stories and experience some of the learning moments, and hopefully be inspired to treat themselves like a baby that they're celebrating that's just learning how to walk, because it's okay to do things wobbly.
Absolutely. And I think, we don't give ourselves that grace. We're hard on ourselves. We don't give ourselves the time to be able to process what's going on and to deal with it. One thing that I found was that everybody wants a quick fix, right? Like there's a push right now in the US, particularly for research, right? For menopause, and they want that pill to make it better, kind of thing. But foremost doctors, recently say, there's no cure for menopause. I mean, I've discovered that how we feel about ourselves can really affect the journey. And I think, you're now entering this time as well. And even from what you've been through, it's such a similar thing, right?
Yes, I just turned 50, so I think this decade's going to be mine, but we'll see.
You know what? Well, you have the knowledge, you have the tools, you have the, I think to be able to come through it beautifully. Not like me, who didn't know what was going on.
No, you did.
You're much more aware,
Honoring ourselves, like you said, number one. And then number two is engaging in community like this, even if you're not active, like even if you're just listening to Lisa and you don't know her, that's still engaging in a community. And I think even as the future of AI and all the, the scary things that we're seeing in the news, the answer is really going to lie in taking care of ourselves well, and then developing communities where we all have the opportunity to take care of ourselves.
I have enjoyed so much hearing your full story, and I thank you for sharing it. So I'm just going to say thank you to everyone who is watching, who has joined us today for this episode of the Menopause Mindshift Self-Love Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Lisa R. Triggs. Have a wonderful rest of your day.